Israel's facing international condemnation after repeatedly attacking UN peacekeeping forces in southern Israel. At least 5 members of UNIFIL, that's the UN interim force in Lebanon, have been injured in recent days. UN's also accused Israel of forcibly entering and destroying a part of the UNIFIL base near the Israeli border.
The recent attacks by Israel on United Nations peacekeepers in Lebanon have caused a global outcry, drawing attention to the increasingly fragile situation in southern Lebanon. These strikes, widely seen as deliberate, violate international law and raise questions about the future of the United Nations interim force in Lebanon. The incident has sparked heated debates about Israel's motivations, the efficacy of international peacekeeping, and the broader implications for regional stability. UNIFIL operates in one of the world's most contentious regions, tasked with maintaining peace amid deep-seated tensions between Israel and Hezbollah. As the conflict escalates, understanding the dynamics behind these attacks is essential to unpack the complexities of the Middle East and evaluate the role of international institutions in resolving such crises.
For now, the UN says it intends to keep the peacekeeping mission in place. But if the war gets even more intense, that may no longer be possible.
UNIFIL's role and significance. UNIFIL was established in 1978 after the South Lebanon conflict to oversee Israel's withdrawal from Lebanon and restore peace in the area. Initially, the mission's mandate was straightforward: monitor the ceasefire and provide assistance to the Lebanese government in regaining control over its territory. However, the mission's role has evolved significantly over the years, particularly following the 2006 war between Israel and Hezbollah. Today, UNIFIL is tasked with monitoring hostilities, supporting the Lebanese armed forces, and facilitating the implementation of UN Resolution 1701, which calls for a cessation of hostilities and the disarmament of armed groups like Hezbollah. Comprising over 10,000 personnel from more than 50 countries, UNIFIL is one of the largest and most diverse peacekeeping missions in the world. Its multinational composition reflects the global consensus on the importance of maintaining stability in southern Lebanon. However, operating in such a volatile region presents immense challenges. UNIFIL's neutrality is often called into question by both Israel and Hezbollah, who accuse the mission of failing to fully enforce its mandate. Despite its limitations, UNIFIL plays a crucial role in fostering communication between the Lebanese and Israeli militaries, providing a platform for dialogue in a region where official ties are non-existent. The recent attacks and their justifications. The recent attacks by Israel on UNIFIL outposts have been widely condemned, with many experts labeling them as deliberate and unnecessary escalations. Israeli officials have justified these actions by pointing to Hezbollah's proximity to UNIFIL bases. According to Israel, Hezbollah uses civilian areas, including those near UNIFIL outposts, to store weapons and launch attacks, creating a security threat that justifies military action. However, critics argue that targeting peacekeepers under these circumstances violates international law. UN peacekeepers are considered protected persons, and deliberate attacks on them undermine the principles of neutrality and international cooperation that form the foundation of UN peacekeeping efforts. Israel's frustration with UNIFIL also stems from its perception that the peacekeepers have been ineffective in curbing Hezbollah's activities. This has led to growing tension between Israel and the UN mission, with Israel increasingly viewing UNIFIL as an impediment to its security objectives rather than a neutral actor working to maintain peace. A history of tensions. The relationship between Israel and UNIFIL has long been fraught with tension. Since the 2006 war, when UNIFIL's mandate was expanded to include the implementation of Resolution 1701, both Israel and Hezbollah have accused the peacekeeping mission of bias and ineffectiveness. Israel claims that UNIFIL has failed to prevent Hezbollah from rearming and establishing new positions in southern Lebanon, violating the terms of Resolution 1701. On the other hand, Hezbollah and its supporters in Lebanon accuse UNIFIL of collaborating with Israel and failing to address Israeli violations of Lebanese sovereignty, such as airstrikes and border incursions. This cycle of mistrust has limited UNIFIL's ability to operate effectively. The peacekeepers must navigate a complex web of political and military dynamics, often relying on the cooperation of local parties to fulfill their mandate. This dependence on cooperation, coupled with the mission's limited ability to engage in combat, leaves UNIFIL vulnerable to criticism and attacks from both sides. Implications of the attacks. The deliberate targeting of UN peacekeepers has significant implications for the region and beyond. Firstly, such actions erode the credibility of international institutions like the United Nations, undermining their ability to mediate conflicts and maintain peace in volatile regions. If peacekeepers cannot be guaranteed safety, future missions may face challenges in gaining the trust and participation of contributing nations. Secondly, the attacks risk further destabilizing southern Lebanon. The region is already a powder keg, with Hezbollah's growing influence and Israel's frequent military operations creating a volatile security environment. Targeting UNIFIL could escalate tensions, leading to more violence and potentially dragging other regional and international actors into the conflict. Finally, these attacks raise questions about Israel's long-term strategy in Lebanon. Some analysts argue that Israel's actions reflect a broader goal of undermining international oversight in the region to pursue its strategic objectives without interference. This tactic could have far-reaching consequences for the future of international peacekeeping and the broader geopolitical dynamics of the Middle East. The role of the United States. The United States, as Israel's most significant ally, plays a complex role in this crisis. While U.S. officials have criticized the attacks rhetorically, their continued military and political support for Israel complicates their position. This dual approach, condemning violence while backing Israel's broader security goals, has drawn criticism from other nations and regional actors, who view the U.S. stance as inconsistent. Moreover, the U.S.'s support for Israel has fueled skepticism among Lebanese civilians and other Middle Eastern populations, many of whom see American involvement as biased. This perception undermines the credibility of U.S.-LD diplomatic efforts to address the crisis, and highlights the challenges of balancing strategic alliances with broader international responsibilities. Challenges facing UNIFIL. UNIFIL's future in southern Lebanon is increasingly uncertain. The mission faces numerous challenges, including limited resources, an evolving mandate, and the ever-present threat of violence. UNIFIL's inability to engage in combat leaves it vulnerable, particularly in a region where military power plays a dominant role in shaping outcomes. Additionally, UNIFIL's reliance on local cooperation complicates its operations. In a region marked by deep-seated political and military divides, maintaining neutrality is a constant challenge. This dependence on cooperation from both Lebanese and Israeli forces limits UNIFIL's ability to act independently, reducing its effectiveness in implementing its mandate. Broader implications for international peacekeeping. The attacks on UNIFIL underscore the broader challenges facing UN peacekeeping missions worldwide. In conflict zones like Congo, Sudan, and now Lebanon, peacekeepers often operate under precarious conditions with limited resources and unclear mandates. This incident highlights the urgent need for reform within the UN system. Critics argue that missions like UNIFIL require clearer mandates, better funding, and stronger enforcement mechanisms to ensure their safety and effectiveness. Without these reforms, peacekeeping missions risk becoming symbolic gestures rather than meaningful efforts to resolve conflicts and maintain stability. The recent escalation involving Israel and UN peacekeepers in Lebanon is a stark reminder of the fragile balance between peace and conflict in the Middle East. Deliberate attacks on peacekeeping forces not only violate international law but also set a dangerous precedent for other conflict zones. As tensions rise, the international community must take decisive action to address these violations and reaffirm its commitment to upholding the principles of peacekeeping. UNIFIL's presence in southern Lebanon is critical to maintaining stability, but its future is uncertain in the face of growing hostility and political challenges. The attacks on UN peacekeepers demand a robust international response, not only to protect those who risk their lives to uphold peace, but also to preserve the credibility of international institutions in an increasingly polarized world.